Hello everyone, my name is Rick Malava, and in this series of videos I'm going to demonstrate various rendezvous and docking techniques. In this first video I'm going to demonstrate how to do a rendezvous using the rescue mission that's part of the current release of Kerbal Space Program, which is 0.24.2. If I go to the Mission Control Center here, at some point fairly early on after you've done the orbit of Kerbin, you'll get a mission to rescue a Kerbal from orbit around Kerbin, and this is Jo'oli Kerman here is the mission here, rescue Jo'oli Kerman. And it'll put him in a random orbit, some height above Kerbin, and you've got to go and rescue him within 5 years, which is kind of funny. So I'll select that mission, and now that will have created a Kerbal in orbit. And the nice thing about this mission is you get this Kerbal into your crew without having to pay for him. And since money is now introduced in this release of Kerbal Space Program, this is a cheap way to get astronauts without having to go to the recruiting center and buying them. So you can run this mission multiple times up until I think you do your first moon orbital mission, and then it stops offering you this one. So by this time you can get, this is a cheap way to get a couple of astronauts without having to buy them. So here's this, he's at 99 kilometers, which is a fairly low orbit. He can generate anywhere between 90 and 150 kilometers is what I've seen. And he's generally always equatorial, probably at a 4-degree inclination. 0.4 degree inclination seems to be what he's always at. So there's the guy we're going to go rescue. So the first thing we need to do is build a ship. So this is going to take about 15 minutes or so to build a ship, and then probably another 15 minutes to go up and rescue him, and then another 5 or 6 minutes to come back. So we're looking at 40 minutes here, so strap yourselves in. You can skip. I'll put links how you can skip over if you don't want to watch the shipbuilding portion or whatever. So in the ship building portion of this, we need to have some place to put them. So we'll need a Mark I capsule. Unfortunately, that's going to come preloaded with an astronaut, so you're going to have to remember to take the astronaut out, and at that point, now you need some way to control it. So you're going to have unlocked minimum probe body and stick it on top like that, and then remember to take the astronaut out before you launch. And I can't tell you how many times I've run this mission and actually gone all the way up to the rendezvous and then realized I forgot to take Jebediah out of the capsule, and so I'd have to run the whole mission over again. And for that reason, I would recommend another approach, and that is to simply take and stack 2 of the Mark I capsules. This has the advantage that you can run this mission before you've unlocked probe bodies, and although it looks gimpy, it works just fine. So of course we want to bring them back home. So if you're going to go stock, I would recommend a pair of the radial attach parachutes, but I'm using another mod called Real Chute, and I prefer to use it because the chutes behave in a more realistic way. You can pop the inline chute on there. Don't panic by the size. These are tweakable, so you can adjust this inline chute, and you also get a radial chute right here. And you can adjust their sizes by going into the Action Group Editor, selecting the part, and then don't be frightened by all of this rocket science down here. You simply need to set the chute for the body that you intend to use it on. There are 4 bodies in the game that have atmosphere, and then you can adjust the size in this with these 2 buttons just below it. So we'll adjust that to the proper size for the Mark I capsule, and for the most part you don't have to worry about anything beyond here. These chutes are infinitely tweakable. You can set them to be drogues, drag, a combo of drogue and drag. You can set all sorts of parameters for when they deploy, how they deploy, but for the most part you never have to worry about any of this. Just pick the body, set the size, and all this other stuff will be the right settings for you. So come back down here, and then of course we'll need an orbital stage that's going to require a fuel tank and an engine, and the LV909 is the engine of choice. You can possibly go with the Rockomax here and get a little bit better delta V, but you're going to sacrifice quite a bit of thrust, so I just tend to stick with the LV909. Another mod that I like to use at this point is we need to continue building the capsule. So in order to do this properly, we need to know what our delta V is. We need 4,500 delta V in the stock atmosphere to get into orbit, and we're going to need enough delta V once we get into orbit to actually transfer up to who we want to rendezvous with and then return. So you can see right now this upper stage is about almost 2,200 delta V. Now, if you want to make this look prettier and you have another mod called procedural fairings, what you can do is come in here and add a fairing base below, take the same fairing base, flip it over and put it above your main capsule, and now you can take the fairing and stick it on the side here with symmetry of 2, and then attach all these guys back again, and now it looks prettier. Okay, and this is simply for making it look prettier, and we've sacrificed about 100 delta V to do that. So now that's our orbital stage and our orbital insertion stage. Now we need something as a lifting stage. So we'll need a decoupler, right? And then I just know from experience that we're close to 5 tons here. So what we'll do is right now the largest 1.25 meter tank I have is this half-high tank here. So we'll take 3 of these, right? And then we have to figure how big of an engine do I need to put on this. Well, in order to do that, you really need to know the mass. And if you notice, as I'm taking the tank off here, that mass doesn't change. And for some reason, I don't know when or if this has always been something with engineering redux, when you add the engine, all of a sudden now it tells you the whole weight of the ship, and you get your delta V, and you get the weight of the engine, and you get the total mass of everything with the engine. So I now know that this with an engine is 12 tons, 12.7 tons. And if you take this total mass and you multiply it by 10, you get 127 kilonewtons, and that will give you a 1-to-1 thrust ratio. And if you multiply it by 2, right, which is roughly 260 kilonewtons of thrust, you'd get a 2-to-1 thrust ratio with this stack right here. But this engine only has a 2. The LVT-30 only has a thrust of 215 kilonewtons. I was trying to get that to stick. There we go. So I could point at it. There's 215 kilonewtons. But you see, I'm getting a thrust to weight ratio of 1.72. And so for your lifting stage, you generally want to have a thrust to weight ratio between 1.75 and 2.5 to 1 thrust to weight ratio. Anything above 2.5, you're just trying to push against the very thick atmosphere before you get up to 6,000 meters in the stock atmosphere. Anything less than 1.75, you're going to be accelerating too slowly. So although I'm a little below 1.75, I'm going to go with this. In order to get around this mass thing, let me show you another mod that I like to use. And I used it exclusively, and I still do use it, in conjunction with engineering redux, because I like the flight statistics the way they're laid out with engineering redux, but I like the control features you get with MechJeb here. If I bring MechJeb up, it has its own delta V stats, and you notice if I take the engine off, it's showing me the weight of the stack without the engine, whereas engineering redux is not. It's 11.5 tons. You don't know what it is with engineering redux. So right here I can quickly say, oh, what size engine do I need down here? Well, I'm going to need something that's at least 20 times this number. 10 is 115, double it is 230. So I'm going to need something around 230 kilonewtons of thrust as my main engine down here. So I like to use MechJeb to help me decide my engine sizes and how much fuel I can use. So just wanted to show you that. Okay, so there's there's our first two stages, and we've got a total of 4,500 delta V. So, or 4,400 delta V. You need 4,500 delta V to get to orbit, so we're slightly less than we need, and we want to have a little extra so we can do the rendezvous and return and all of that stuff. So let's add one more stage in the form of a pair of boosters. So I'm going to put a pair of decouplers on, so hopefully you'll have decouplers at the point you get this mission. And then we're going to put on a pair of RT-10 solid rocket boosters. Right? And I like to put them as low as possible so that when they separate they don't bump into anything. Okay? And then now in stock atmosphere, aerodynamics does not mean anything. So you can put nose cones on, but all they really do are add weight and make things look nice. But hey, let's make things look nice. And then if you ever do add something like near or far, you'll be in the habit of making your stuff aerodynamic. Fairings and nose cones have very little effect in stock Kerbal atmosphere. So there we go. That's the basic ship we need. We just have to work out our staging now. So we're going to launch on our two solid rocket boosters. And you can see I'm actually a little over that 2.5 max setting, so we're going to live with that. I'm not going to adjust the limit the thrust. If you found you were getting too much thrust, you can limit the thrust, and since they were added with symmetry, if I adjust one, it adjusts both. But we'll leave it at 2.51 because we're going to add some more ports on here. And then the decouplers are going to fire, and we want to fire the main engine. And then this decoupler is going to fire, and we want to do that. And then we don't want to jettison these fairings because they're just covering that bottom capsule, so we'll put them in their own stage and put them above the parachute. So that's our staging set up properly. The things I'd like to add is I never like to run out of electricity, so let's put a pair of batteries on. And never go overboard with your batteries. Try to put as many as you need, not anymore. And then I also have the fixed solar panels, so I'm going to put 4 of those on. So we have power generation and power storage. And then purely for looks, I've got a package called the aviation lights and surface lights, which gives me a couple of different light options. And I can take my aviation light here, which is fairly bright, and we'll put 4 of these in here. Oh, not 6, 4. Cool. So we got 4 aviation lights there, and then just to make it look pretty, let's put this is a package called surface lights. These lights are part of a package called aviation lights, and I'll just stick with one add-on so I'm not throwing too many add-ons at you. So we'll just use another set of 4 of those and put them at the stage junctions. So right where that stage is, and we'll put another 4, whoop, not the blues. We'll put another 4. Back day, let's be pretty. We'll put ambers at the on the bottom, so we know it's the bottom of the rocket. We'll put 4 of those. Okay, and then the last thing that I'd like to do is put those all into an action group. They don't come on with the standard key you use for turning your lights on and off. The aviation lights, you have to put them in an action group. I'm using a mod called Action Group Extended, which gives me up to 250 different actions. There's 5 action sets, and then each set has 50 actions that you can set. In the first action group, I've never really had to use more than the first action group. In my 50th slot, I like to manage my lights. So I can put a description in here, lights, and then I can come out here and select these lights. And as I select the lights, you see they get added into a group down here. And as long as they're the same type light, they stack up. So all of these white lights I can select together and then say toggle light. And then I can come down here and select the amber ones and say toggle light. And now, whenever I execute this number 50 action group, which I've assigned to keypad 0, just by doing that, I will turn on all my lights. So let's come out of this. The other nice thing about Action Group Extended is you can set action groups outside of the VAB, so you don't get into that situation where you forgot to set action groups before you launched and now you're just boned because you don't want to go back to the VAB and rebuild your ship. So it's another advantage of using Action Group Extended. So there we go. We've got over our 4500 Delta V to get us into orbit and do our rendezvous and rescue and return. And we got our staging set up the way we want it. We got all our action groups set up. We're ready to launch. So with that, let's go on to the next phase, which is actually doing the rendezvous. Let's name this thing here. I'm going to call it, I've got a couple of these, so let's see. Okay, so we'll call this CTV Rescue Mark IV. As you can see, I've done this video a couple of times for people. CTV Rescue Mark IV. Okay, and then we'll save that. That's this. Oops, I hate that click-through bug. And then we'll save this and then launch. Okay, so it was about 15 minutes to build the ship, and we're looking at probably another 15 minutes in this section to actually do the rendezvous and describe what it is we're doing, because I want you to understand what a Hohmann transfer is, which is simply going from one circular orbit to the other, and the only trick to it is deciding when you're going to set up your maneuver node or try to set up your maneuver node to do the rendezvous itself. So, first, you notice Action Group Extended here. Very nice. It shows you what all your action groups are, and they're labeled so you don't have to try to remember what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is. So, if I hit the 0 key, it turns on my lights. And, of course, we're going to turn on our SAS. We're going to throttle up to full. We're going to go up to orbit here. We're going to pick our target, right? Set our target. And now I want to wait for the target to be just above me before I launch, because when I get into orbit I want to be just behind him, and I'm going to get it in this case in the lowest orbit I can, which is between 70 and 71 kilometers, and then I'm going to catch up to him, because in the shorter orbit or the smaller orbit I'll be the lower orbit, I should probably say, I'll be moving faster than him, so I'll be catching up to him. If I wanted to go into an orbit above him, I'd want him to be behind me so that he could catch up to me. So let's get him into position. The nice thing here is you can warp as fast as you want to bring him around. So I'm going to bring him around. Get him into position. I'm going to put him just behind me in this particular case. Or just kind of, yeah, just behind me right there, because I'm going to yammer more and he'll be moving as I'm yammering. So so that's everything set up. We've got our target just behind us and above us, and now we can come back out here, and you notice my throttle's been set back to 50%. I don't know why it does that. It's kind of annoying. Whenever you go to the map screen and come back and you're on a launch pad, it does that. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. And launch. Now, stock atmosphere, you want to go up to 6,000 meters and then start to pitch over. I don't like the let's ram it over to 45-degree approach. What I like to do is follow my prograde vector over, and this way, if you do install a mod like near or far, you're in a habit of not trying to reef the ship over. If you get your bearing indicator too far ahead of your actual prograde vector, you will lose control of your ship if you're using one of those mods. Right? You noticed I want to be below 200 meters per second until I hit 6,000 meters, and after that point it's not as critical. So 6,000 meters I'll start to pitch over, and you notice I only pitch over very slowly, and I let my I'm just in front of my my prograde vector. The thing with the little wings and the head and the V is your bearing. That's where you're pointing. And the circle here is your actual path that you're flying on. And you don't want to get those too far away from one another, or you will lose control if you're using, like I said, one of the other modules. Now that it's pitching over on its own, I'm just sort of staying within the prograde vector. I don't want to pitch over too fast because I don't want to get the horizontal too low in the atmosphere. I've generally found if you're at about 20 kilometers when you get to the 45-degree mark, you're pitching over at about the right rate. And you can see I'm at 24, 25 kilometers right now. And when I get to 30 degrees above the horizon, I'll be close to 30 kilometers. And when I get to 40 degrees above, or 20 degrees above the horizon, I'll be close to 40 kilometers. And when I get to 10 degrees above the horizon, I'll be close to 50 kilometers, and so on. So there's 40. Next stage. And orbital velocity is around 2,300 meters per second, and you want to be at least 1,500 meters per second by the time you reach your desired apoapsis. Anything below 1,500 is really not a good launch profile. So I'm going to hold it here at around 50 kilometers, and now I'm going to let it climb up to around 60 kilometers, and then I'm going to pitch over to horizontal. And you can see I'm already above 1,500 meters per second here. So there's 60 kilometers. And I'm actually going to just sort of stay at 5 degrees above. So I'm starting to burn a lot of fuel. This might have been a little shallow, but it'll be fine. There's 70, 71. So now you can see I'm at 71 kilometers here. He's at 98, almost 100. So we don't have much of a difference between our altitudes, but I will be moving faster than him. And by the time I get to my apoapsis, he will be in front of me for sure. So let's, what did I just do there? Let's come here and add, what's going on here? I want it. Maneuver node, damn it. Dagnabbit. It's so close to him, it's picking him rather than my, let's try that. There we go. Right, so now we're just going to do our standard, let's do a circularization. Right, so there's 70 and 71. So here's a little trick. If you're you want to circularize your orbit at your circularization burn, and the side on the right is below the side on the left, you burn radially out, right, until you bring the what was the peri or apoapsis down to, oh, damn it, why is it so freaking sensitive? There we go. So you can see now it's 71 and 71. So I've circularized the orbit. If the left side needs to be raised and the right side is higher than the left side, you burn radial in. It's the opposite, and you can, but just do the burn until you bring the apoapsis to your current position. Okay, so let's get on the ball here. 34-second burn, or 17-second burn, I should say. And I'm actually going to start this a little earlier than I normally would, right about now. And then I'll probably have to show you that little trick again. Okay, so you see I'm at 72 on the right side and 70 on the left. So I want to raise the side on the left. So instead of burning radially out, I'm going to burn radially in, which is basically pointing towards the planet. So right now, and you can see with the enhanced nav ball, I have a little indicator here to show me radially in. And if I burn, right, it's going to bring this down to where I am, and now it's 71 and 71. So you can see I circularized my orbit there. So now it's just a matter, now you see I'm behind my target, but not so far behind that it's going to take forever to catch up. So the next thing to do is to look at your orbital inclination, and hey, look, didn't I say I said 0.4 degrees? I've done this a bunch of times. It's always going to be 0.4 degrees if you do this right, and about 16 meters per second to match planes. Right now, 0.4 meters per second, or 0.4 degrees does not matter that much, but we will we'll match planes just to be thorough. So what I want to do is create a maneuver node right at that ascending node. And it's called the ascending node because if I look at it from this angle, you can see that my orbit is lower on this side and higher on this side. So I'm ascending as I pass through this node. That's why it's the ascending node. And since I'm ascending, I want to, which is positive, which would be normal, I want to actually do an anti-normal burn at this point, which is this purple triangle here. And we'll pull it down until these guys flip. And you see they flip sides, and so now it's 0 degrees. Right? And so we've matched our planes, and we're going to need 15.3 meters per second of burn to do that. So let's set up our maneuver node here, and let's warp ahead. Right. And this is why you don't want to be too close to the thing you're rendezvousing with, because you need to do this matching planes burn, and you don't want to get too close to them because you have to get up to the point we're going to make the burn, and then now you'll be too close to do the transfer. Okay. So at this point we've matched planes. So now we've matched planes, we're in a lower orbit than our target, and so now we have to figure out when do we want to plan our maneuver node to do the rendezvous. And a good rule of thumb for small orbits like this and a difference in your orbital heights of 100 kilometers or so, if you draw an imaginary tangent from your orbit to the point where it intersects the target orbit, that's a good point to start planning your where you want to do your maneuver to do the rendezvous. This assures when you're in this distance, you're probably within one orbit of being at a point where you can transfer up to or down to your target. It's the opposite. If you were your target was back here, you would wait for the target to catch up to a point where its tangent pass through you, because you're going to transfer back. When you go from a higher orbit to a lower orbit, you can transfer forward when you go from a lower orbit to a higher orbit. And as I'm talking here, you can see that I'm at that point right now. I know from experience, though, because this is such a short distance between our targets, we're talking about 20 kilometers between us, that I'm probably going to want to be a little bit ahead of where that tangent line is. So I'm going to allow myself to warp forward just a little bit more. Right. And you can see I've been doing a lot of yammering. If you do this without, just setting it up, see, right now I think I'm ready to do the transfer. So if I put a maneuver node somewhere on my orbit and I push out my apoapsis until you'll see these are this peach markers here are called your close approach markers, and if I push my apoapsis up, you'll see they'll split into two. There's a peach pair and a purple pair. And the reason for that is I'm passing through his orbit. You can see I'm going above his orbit, and I'm coming back into his orbit. And so I have two separate spots where I can have my closest approach. The way that I like to set this up is first push your apoapsis out until your close approach markers split, and then burn retrograde until they pull back into a single set of markers right there. So right now I know my apoapsis is touching his orbit right now. And now, the reason that circular orbits make Hohmann transfers work easily in Kerbal Space Program is now I just grab my entire maneuver node and I drag it around. And as I'm dragging it, you'll notice that those close approach markers start to come together, right? They're getting closer and closer and closer. And I'm only looking at the peach pair. They split into a pair again because his orbit's not perfectly circular, so I've gone through his orbit again. But just worry about one set. And what you can do is if it splits like that and you're very close here, now all I have to do is just burn retrograde until they retrograde until they come back into one again. Poof, like right there. And so now, once again, I just take this, and now it's just a matter of adjusting it until I get the closest distance. And you want to be around 2 kilometers is fine. And you can see right now I'm actually going to be at 0.1 kilometer. I'm going to be 100 meters away from them at this point. So there you go. So in less than one orbit, I know where I have to do my maneuver node burn to actually do the rendezvous. And then once we do the rendezvous, we'll match velocities with him at this point, and that'll have the effect of matching his orbit, and we'll be as close as possible to him. So let's do that burn. So this is the rendezvous burn. Just warping forward, and you can see how close I'm getting to him before I'm doing the actual burn to rendezvous with him. So because our orbits are so close, I'm going to be almost right below him by the time I do the burn to actually meet him over here on the other side of the planet. Okay, so let's set up our burn. It's a very short burn, so I'm going to wait till I'm pretty much right on the... do that burn. And... okay. So you can see I pushed through his orbit again, but I'm going to be 0.5 kilometers away right here. I did a sort of a messy burn there. But hey, it's no big deal. So now I know at this point I'm going to be 0.5 kilometers away, and there's another spot where I'm going to be 1.8 kilometers away. But we're going to rendezvous with him right here. Now at this point, I don't even have to set up another node. You could try to set up a node right here and match his orbit like that and kind of figure out where you're going to need to be to do the burn. But you don't really need this at all. So I'm going to show you how to do this. In my older videos, I used to show making another maneuver node here. But in this case, we're just going to warp around until we get close to that spot, and then we're going to do the rest by eye. Okay, so now if I go to this mode, you see, there's my target. So I can, and you notice the distance between us is getting smaller and smaller. So what you want to do is just turn your ship retrograde, and when you get as close as you possibly can, you're gonna, you notice this goes from orbit to target, so orbit to surface to target. Now you're 23 meters per second from the target, so I'm gonna start doing a burn here and reduce that to 0. So I'm gonna match velocities with the target. Right? And I'm purposely doing this a little ways away so we can show you how to do the approach. Okay, so there's 0.4. Okay, 0.1 is close enough. So now I'm 340 meters away from the target, and I'm moving at its velocity. So I've matched its velocity, and if I come out here, you'll see that I've also, in the process of doing that, matched its orbit. Okay, so now it's just a matter of driving to the target. So once again, this is the enhanced nav ball, and there are some things on the nav ball that will help you do this. You see the magenta circle? That's the target's prograde vector. That's the direction the target is moving. This is my prograde vector. That's the direction I'm moving. And so right now I'm pointing at the target, and the target is above me, right? Because you can see it's up. I'm pointing at the ground, and it's my actual direction. I'm sorry. I'm moving above it, right? My prograde vector here. So what I want to do is get my prograde vector on top of his prograde vector, so we're moving together. And when you do a prograde burn, your prograde vector will be pulled towards your bearing vector. So watch. See, so I did that burn, it pulls towards my bearing vector. So now I'm moving towards the target at 1 meter per second. So now I can get just on top of it, do a little extra burn here. Let's get it to, say, 3 meters per second. So now I'm moving at the target at 3 meters per second, pretty much flying straight at it. Now if I flip around, now when you do this, you have to remember the size of your ship, the rate that you accelerate is important. This is a small ship, so I can do these maneuvers fairly close to my target. As your ships get larger, you're going to have to give yourself more time. Now, just to demonstrate, when you are burning prograde, your prograde vector moves towards your bearing vector. God, I hate that guy. When you're burning retrograde, it'll push it away. So watch if I burn here. See how it pushed the retrograde vector away from my bearing? So keep that in mind when you're slowing down. So if I want to push this over and also slow down the rate that I'm approaching my target, I just do a little burn here. And if you find that it's too sensitive, you can come out here and you can limit your thrust, say to 30%, 35%-ish or so. So I'm getting 70 kilometers away from the target. So I just want to basically wrangle. It just becomes a point of wrangling your prograde and your retrograde markers to be on top of the target's prograde and retrograde markers. Right, so slow down a little bit more and push it up that way. Right, there we go. So now I'm 31 kilometers away, and I'm just going to let it truck on in. And at this point, I'm just going to sit on my retrograde vector as I truck on into him. So at 20 kilometers, I'll start to slow down to 0. Now watch the prograde vector very closely, or my retrograde vector here very closely. It will at some point disappear. And you see it still says 1 meter per second, but the prograde vector has disappeared. What I'm going to do is just tap my throttle one more time, and you see that drops to 0. So now we're 16 meters apart in space, and we're moving in the same orbit, and we're at what would be called station holding position. So now it's just a matter of rotating my capsule's hatch towards the poor Kerbal trapped in space here. Let's put that hatch towards him. And then we'll hit the bracket key to switch over to him. And then we'll listen to the guy ramble. Every time you do something major, Chatterer goes off and rambles. So let's turn on his lights, and let's activate his RCS. And now it's just a matter of flying him 10 meters or 15 meters over to the ship. And there we go. And now just F for him to enter, and there you go. You have rendezvoused and rescued the Kerbal. So we've done a Hohmann transfer, and now all that's left is to deorbit. So I'll make this a separate section. So we're at 40 minutes now, and I'll make this deorbit into a third section. So we'll have like 3 15-minute sections or so. So here we go. Let's deorbit and bring them home. So the way I like to do my deorbit, and I have, let's see here, if I go to vehicle stats, I've got almost 800 delta V left over. So my design of the stage is just fine. It's more than you need to do the rendezvous, rescue, and return. So before worrying about turning retrograde or anything, I'm going to go to this view. And what I like to do for my landing is just a standardized procedure here. This is the Kerbal Space Center, and this is a little desert peninsula here. And I like to plan my deorbit burn at about this point. So what I'll do is I'll warp around here. And I'll go back so I have time to talk here. So now what I'll do is I'll start my deorbit burn around here, and I'll want to shoot. This is the Kerbal Space Program. This is the other landmass all the way over here. What I'd like to do is right around in this point. If you draw a line from where this juts out right here, if you draw this down, you want to plan on being at your orbit hitting this point, and that will get you pretty close to the Kerbal Space Center when you actually land. So let me show you that. I'll bring us to a retrograde burn here. Now, if you limited your thrust, it helps. It's not mandatory, but it helps to remember to put that back to 100, and then start your deorbit burn. Right, and like I said, I'm shooting for somewhere right around here. There's some islands right here, and you want to be just beyond the islands is where you want to shoot for. So you can see I'm coming in here. Plenty of delta V. Right there. Okay, so I have 300 delta V left, which I can use if I need it. So now I'm going to go to this mode again. I'm going to hit V to go to free camera view. And now what I like to do is roll inverted. Right. So this is my bearing indicator again. These represent my wings. The little dot represents where your head is, and so my head now is pointed towards the brown, so the hatch is pointed towards the earth, and so I'm upside down and wings level. Right. The reason I do that is now if I'm looking at the ship this way, and if I press my A key, the ship goes to my left, and if I press the D key, it goes to my right, and if I press the down key, it goes down, and if I press the up key, it pitches up. So I've got a frame of reference that I can work with when I do this. And plus, as I pitch over, the hatch is going to be facing me. So just once again, I like to. I'm a pilot, so pilots are used to doing things using standardized procedures so that they can just repeat them over and over again without thinking about it, and then you don't have to worry about you know what to expect ahead of time. You're not guessing every time you do something because you're doing it different every time. So what I can do now is just accelerate in. And at this point, I'm determining, I'm waiting for myself to get to the high atmosphere here, and I'm deciding if I'm going to need to do more of a burn Decelerate here, and I'm clearly going to be coming in a little high, so I'm going to just use up some of this fuel. Okay, now that's got me about looking right. Starting to pick up my atmospheric effects. I can turn my SAS off at this point. And I'm waiting to see when I want to pop my chutes, which is right about now. And I'm probably going to be just a smidge long, but a very close 98%. The closer you are to the KSC when you land, the higher percentage of your vehicle cost you get back. So the idea of, you know, always doing the same approach when you land is always going to get you within a certain radius of the KSC, so you know you're going to get, you know, at least 98% of your vehicle cost back. So I'm going to be very close here. See if I'm landing the water. Probably going to be just on the edge of the water here from the KSC, which is pretty good. Okay, and I can accelerate now. The chute's open at about 800 meters, so I can accelerate to just before that point. Yeah, I'm going to be just in the water. So there's the chutes. And you can see this one inline radial 3 parachute arrangement gets me below 6.5 meters per second. So anything below 6.5 meters per second is safe. Now I can accelerate down again, and I can switch over here to surface, and I can see my height right there. It's 200, 100 meters, and about 50 meters I'll just let it come in on its own. So there we go. So there is a rescue and return. We'll wait to land and see what we get. So now we can see, of course you can come out and do EVAs and all that fun stuff, but this was a rescue, so we're not going to bother with it. And just recover the ship. And you can see we got our 32 science, or we didn't get any science for this mission, but we got money, I think, for recovering him. And we recovered almost 98% of our, we were close enough to the KSC that we got 98% of our ship. And if you use that procedure, you'll find you'll either land a little short, a little long, you know, once in a while you'll, you know, do everything right and you'll land right on it, but you're going to be, you know, 97, 98% of your vehicle cost recovered every time if you use that procedure to do your landing. And then we now have an astronaut that we didn't have to pay for in our astronaut corps. Come over here. You can see we now have Jolie Kerbin, and we didn't have to pay for them. If you try to get one of these guys, you have to hire them and you have to pay for them. So you can keep repeating this mission and get a nice stockpile of Kerbals that you can explode at your leisure. So there you go. That was a building the ship, doing the launch to rendezvous, and deorbit and return to the Kerbin Space Center. In the next video, I'm going to demonstrate how to actually do a docking, a rendezvous and docking, using a couple of docking targets that I've already got up in orbit. And then the next video, I think, is going to show how to do a launch directly to rendezvous using MechJeb. And then I think I'm also going to do a fourth video that shows how to do a launch directly to rendezvous manually. So with that, I hope you found this helpful, and thanks for watching.